someone I've always been meeting the last I think, my sixth time of being in this conference. So, Professor Bessie House Shuremekun is the Associate Dean and Professor of Political Science in the College of Liberal Arts at Jackson State University. Previously, she served as Director of Africana Studies, Professor of Political Science and Africana Studies, Public Scholar in Africana Studies, Civic Engagement and Entrepreneurship, and the Founder Executive Director of the Center for Global Entrepreneurship and Sustainable Development at Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. She is an award-winning author, inventor, and entrepreneur, as well as an internationally recognized scholar, expert, and advocate on entrepreneurship and economic development. Professor Shuremekun attended Larned High School in Alabama, where she graduated with honors. She received a BA degree in English from Huntingdon College, where she graduated magna cum laude. She then attended what is now the Joseph Kobe School of International Studies at the University of Denver, where she earned her MBA and PhD degree in International Studies. She has performed research in Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, and the United States. She has published 6 books and 30 journal articles and book chapters. Her books include Class Development and the Gender Inequality in Kenya, 1963 to 1990, and there is a lot of them here. I'm sorry, ma, I have to go quickly and skip some of these. She is currently writing 2 additional books entitled Yoruba Creativity, Memoir, Poetry, Culture, and Entrepreneurship, which is under contract with Carolina Academic Press and the African American Entrepreneurship, Philanthropic Giving, Self-Help, and the Struggle for Economic Empowerment, which is under contract with Indiana State University Press. She has created from scratch and directed 5 entrepreneurial centers through the years, which include the Center for Studies and the Development of Minority Businesses at Kent State University. I have to go through it very quickly, I'm sorry. I think I have to say this. Professor Shuremekun also has a PhD council title, which includes Irelu Bada, Asiwaju of Ebaland, which was conferred on her by the Royal Majesty Michael Adetono Aremu Balibo, the Alake and Paramount Ruler of Ibadan, the Iyalaje of Bakatari, and the Irelu Mayebu of KC. She is also a lady of the Knight of John Wesley, which was conferred on her by the prelate of the Methodist Church of Nigeria. She is married to Sir Chief Dr. Maurice A.E. Shuremekun, the Knight of John Wesley, who is also a physician who specializes in obstetrics and gynecology. They have 4 children and several grandchildren. Please, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Professor.
Welcome. I want to thank my esteemed colleague and mentor, the indefatigable and very talented Chief Dr. Toyin Falola, for inviting me to be the banquet speaker this evening. It is not easy to produce a high-quality conference for 17 consecutive years, and sometimes we underestimate the amount of fortitude, diligence, and sheer hard work that it takes to gain momentum and to make sure that an enterprise of this magnitude continues to go year after year after year. So please join me in thanking Professor Polola and the members of his team. I also want to thank my sincere greetings to his lovely wife, Chief Dr. Bisi Polola, all of the attendees of this great conference, and also members of the community at large. I have also been particularly impressed with the rather large number of students that have been in attendance at this great conference. I first met Dr. Polola in 1990 at a conference on Africa that was held at Kent State University, where he was presenting a plenary speech. I have watched in awe and admiration his meteoric rise to global stardom as he has taken the work of Africa and the African diaspora to many new dizzying heights. It is always a pleasure to come to the great state of Texas, the home of homemade beer and rum, cowboys and cowbells, burgeoning cattle ranches, endless oil fields, and some really fantastic T-bone steaks. In fact, I am very happy that I had an opportunity to have one of those steaks tonight before I return back to the great state of Mississippi, the home of homemade cornbread, sweet potato pies, and macaroni and cheese. I am absolutely delighted to share with you tonight some of the findings of my research work and real-world observations regarding African American entrepreneurs in the North American diaspora here in the United States. The secret of making a very good speech, of course, is to make sure that you keep it short and sweet. I shall try to adhere to that edict this evening, and since you have just consumed a very delicious dinner and probably want to enjoy the evening's festivities ahead, I will not bother to discuss the most exciting and intricate details regarding the development of my theoretical models and paradigmatic approaches used in my research on African American entrepreneurs, or the wonderful discoveries which enabled me to examine and re-examine my independent and dependent variables of analysis. I can tell by your faces that you are extremely disappointed. And possibly even crushed by my decision to exclude these matters from my discussion this evening. But I do believe that in due course, you will probably thank me and even shake my hand before this very evening is over. My work on African American entrepreneurship started many years ago after I published my second book on African market women and economic power, The Role of Women in African Economic Development, which I co-edited with Dr. Felix Ikechi. This book examined the important roles and contributions of African women in West, East, Southern, and Central African states in enhancing the economic development of their respective countries within the much broader context of the informal economy. This research also helped me to create a new field of academic inquiry, which I refer to as transatlantic African diasporic entrepreneurial studies. This research has allowed me to look at transnational linkages and connections between patterns of entrepreneurship in Africa and patterns of entrepreneurship amongst African American populations here in the United States. I'm happy to say that I have been able to expand my database based on invitations I have received from 3 African universities. In particular, the vice chancellors of these 3 institutions invited me to come to do site visits and to also collect data. And these universities are Edikuli Adjacent University in Akongo, Akoko, the Federal University of Agriculture in Abeokuta, and Adiemi College of Education in Ondo City. I was able to perform some pilot studies on entrepreneurs in these areas and also at 2 different marketplaces in Johannesburg, South Africa, when I attended the TOCAC conference there in 2015. Through the receipt of a grant that I received last year from Indiana University Bloomington, I have also performed additional archival work in Indiana, New York, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. Tonight, I want to focus very briefly on the human component of entrepreneurship. And through my very brief discussion, I want to pinpoint the epistemological basis of African Americans' involvement in this exciting economic arena, and to highlight a few success stories that have become part of my own historical and contemporary narratives. It seems like it was only yesterday when I began my research work on this subject in Cleveland, Ohio, and began to collect my secondary and primary research. And I also developed a lot of questionnaires to elicit the kind of information that I needed to know. So I went out into the African American community to build bonds of friendship with them in hopes that they would open up and give me the kinds of information I needed. Our first encounters went something like this. Why are you asking me all of these questions, Professor Cheryl Baker? What are you going to do with this information? Why do you need to know how much money I made in my business last year? Are you going to report me to the IRS? If I forgot to pay my income taxes last year, will I have to go to jail? And lastly, do you secretly work for the FBI or the CIA? I looked them squarely in the eye and uttered the following words. I do not work for the FBI, nor do I work for the CIA. I am simply a black female faculty member trying to survive the rigors of academia in the ivory tower. After all, we were told that we needed to publish or perish. And I really don't want to perish at this time. Rule number 1 of performing field research. Make sure that you build bonds of trust and understanding with the subjects of your research project. And so began the process of me interviewing hundreds of entrepreneurs and having them to trust me with their stories, their lives, and their narratives. I'm happy to say that beyond the research process and beyond the entrepreneurial training programs that they participated in, I have been able to maintain a lot of professional relationships with them, which have survived the research phase. Entrepreneurial development by African Americans in the city of Cleveland, Ohio has a rich and very vibrant history which dates all the way back to the early part of the 19th century. During the decades of the 1980s and 20s and 30s, for example, even though the black population was small, there were a number of individuals who had very successful businesses, even during that early era. Some of these businesses were horse breeders, seamstresses, blacksmiths, masons, bricklayers, farm owners, hairstylists, tailors, and manufacturers. Alfred Greenbrier was a noted cattle and horse breeder as early as 1827. From the 1830s through the 1850s, we had more businesses proliferating as we had a sizable number of African Americans moving to Cleveland in search of a better way of life and more economic mobility. One of the most successful black entrepreneurs of the late 19th and early 20th centuries was George Myers, who operated the Hollenden Barbershop inside the Hollenden Hotel, which was considered at this time to be the most modern barbershop in the United States. It was located in the city of Cleveland. Myers Barbershop employed about 35 people, including at its high point, 17 barbers, 6 manicurists, 5 porters, 3 hairdressers for women, 2 cashiers, and 2 podiatrists. Ownership of the Holland Hotel Barbershop enabled Myers to live comfortably, but undoubtedly one of the most advantageous benefits was the ability to interact with many important and notable political leaders, and some of them were very exalted people. For example, because his barbershop was so popular, Myers had the opportunity to shave the hair and groom at least 8 American presidents, which included President Grover Cleveland, William McKinley, Rutherford B. Hayes, William Harrison, Theodore Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, William Taft, and Warren G. Harding. He also groomed the hair of numerous members of Congress, as well as other well-known individuals, such as Mark Twain, one of the most famous and revered novelists in American history. Within this entrepreneurial milieu, Myers was able to access financial capital for his business because of his tremendous ability to utilize social capital networks and also to demonstrate that he had political savvy and to also acquire political capital. More importantly, he was also privy to discussions which took place in his barber's chair about some of the most compelling and important political issues of his era. Another creative and innovative entrepreneur of this period was Samuel Clayton Green, who actually invented the sofa bed. So whenever you pull out the sofa bed in your home, remember that this was invented by an African American back in 1902. Alonzo Wright was also extremely successful, and he was the first African American millionaire in the city of Cleveland. Armed only with an 8th grade education, he was enormously resourceful. And he used opportunities for social capital interactions to develop ties with the owner of the Standard Oil's franchise, service station franchise, and eventually was able to acquire ownership of about 7 Standard Oil franchises. These were the first that were located in predominantly African American communities, were as impactful and innovative as Garrett Augustus Morgan. He was perhaps the quintessential entrepreneur of his era. Everything he touched turned to gold. And he has made many, many inventions. He had a clothing manufacturing business. He had sewing machine companies in his home. He invented a lot of things that were designed to help with sewing machines. His genius seemed to lie in developing a very diverse array of practical products. And of course, all this becomes very significant because many of these great inventions were being crafted at the height of the segregation era, and very few opportunities for people of color to lift themselves up. And so the proverbial statement that ethnic communities have lifted themselves up by their bootstraps certainly would apply for African Americans. They were tying their boots even when they didn't actually have the boots. So we got to give some credit for that. Morgan invented a breathing apparatus in 1912, which he developed into a gas mask. So whenever you look around on television, you look at the military, you look at fire departments, and you see them wearing a gas mask, remember that this was invented by an African American by the name of Garrett Augustus Morgan. And when many people, whites, found out that a black man had invented such a great thing, they were deciding not to purchase the product. So he actually had to hire white people to go around the country and market the gas mask for him to pretend that they actually created the invention. I will also mention that Garrett Morgan is also responsible for the invention of the tricolored traffic signal. And so in the early 1900s, he invented this. He developed a patent for the traffic signal. And this has global impact. There's not a country in the world that I've traveled to that is not using a more modern form of the traffic signal today. Unfortunately, he sold his patent to General Electric for only $40,000 in 1923. But today, of course, this would have made him a billionaire. He also established the Wakeman Country Club in Ohio, which gave opportunities for African Americans that were upwardly mobile to come together to solidify their work in the common good. He also founded the Call newspaper, which later merged with the Post to become now the Call and Post newspaper, which today is still in operation. We also had African Americans who were creating sources of capital for themselves. Many white financial institutions were not going to cater to the needs of African Americans. And so African Americans had problems getting loans for homes, for their businesses. And so we had a lot of organizations that came together around the institution of self-help in order to provide opportunities for economic mobility. We also had females. You asked the question, what were the women doing at this time? Women were also very much engaged in entrepreneurial pursuits. Some of the businesses that women were starting were centered around their caretaking ability and their homemaking ability. So consequently, some of the businesses that they created were restaurants, beauty salons, barber salons, and also facilities that enabled young people to learn how to make clothing and to care for themselves and groom themselves. When you see photographs of these decades, it's amazing how very well groomed African Americans were, even at the height of the difficulties in racial relationships. The African American story goes on and on and on. And in the city of Cleveland, I examined it all the way from 1795 until 2017. And so over time, we had more small, medium, and large mega businesses that were created in the areas of construction, media, television, real estate, and then of course, we had the rise of the hip-hop entrepreneurs, which has now shaken the world, and they have also created billions of dollars. Obviously, you can tell I enjoy this subject area. And I could continue talking for quite some time. However, I know that you've had a lot of rigor over the past few days in attending all of these panels and workshops. And so I shall try to bring my remarks to a close. Let me simply say, in conclusion, that African Americans in the diaspora have been involved for hundreds of years in developing creative new avenues and spaces within which to situate their unique and important enterprises. In the process, they have created important products and services and propelled forward new inventions to enhance the quality of living, not only for their own community, but for the broader community at large. In the process, on the national, local, and regional levels, they have collectively generated billions of dollars in revenue, provided important jobs for members of their community, and created vibrant capital networks that have been so vital for the process of capitalist economic development, capital formation, and expansion in their own neighborhoods. They have also been involved in the important process of reinventing themselves for success within the context of the 21st century knowledge economy. Successful entrepreneurship never, ever takes place in a vacuum. Numerous factors must be in place, which mutually reinforce each other across time and space. These include the development of important business concepts or ideas, the fortitude to move forward, to take risks, to implement these ideas, even sometimes in the face of what appears to be almost insurmountable odds. The attributes of creativity and innovation, which can serve as important avenues to enhance their conditions in the economic marketplace, the development of important sources of social capital, and patterns of reciprocity and trust, which enable entrepreneurs to build vibrant and expanding clienteles to enhance their levels of profit over time, the ability to acquire financial capital both at the front end and at the back end of the business enterprise to grow the businesses, and the provision of important physical infrastructures in the forms of robust transportation networks, roads and bridges to facilitate the movement of customers and products from one locale to the other, and by connecting customers who want to buy products with entrepreneurs who want to sell their products. And the development and expansion of business assistance programs by state, governmental agencies, members of the public and private sectors, and other measures. As you can see, successful entrepreneurship is a complex phenomenon which is imbued with many layers of interaction. As the title of 2 of my books has indicated, African American entrepreneurs in some respects have confronted the odds and emerged victorious in an economic marketplace which was very much influenced by patterns of structural inequality and racist ideologies, which led to the development of numerous barriers to mitigate against the attainment of successful outcomes by this population. Nevertheless, much more work needs to be done to both expand and improve on entrepreneurial development processes by African-descended populations who reside here in the African diaspora. I close tonight with one of my favorite quotes by successful entrepreneur Mark Cuban, who said the following words: "It doesn't matter how many times you fail. It doesn't matter how many times you almost got it right. All that matters in business is that you get it right once. Then everyone can tell you how very lucky you are."
The next item is Mr. Professor Neville Hall, University of Texas, for a special presentation.
Professor Shorten is a very difficult act to follow. I don't think I can be nearly as funny or nearly as learned, but I can be a little bit shorter, so that's what I'm going to aim for. I'm here I've got both a happy task and a sad task. I'm here to briefly memorialize Professor Barbara Harlow, and then to announce a new award that has been very generously funded in Professor Harlow's name by Professor Talola, and I put your 2 names together, Toyin Falola and Visi Falola, the Barbara Harlow Award for Excellence in Scholarship. I arrived in Austin in 2001, so I think I missed the first 2 of these conferences, but otherwise I've been here for 14 years now. And it's particularly sad for me because this is the first time I'm coming without Barbara. So those of you who are regular attenders probably remember her. She was small, fierce, and she'd be outside smoking a lot. But I'm going to talk a little bit about her career, and then I'm just going to talk about the award and what it means. Barbara was the Lou Ann and Larry Templeton Professor of English here at the University of Texas. She taught 2 stints at the American University in Cairo, including one stint as the chair of the English department there. She also taught at both campuses of the University of Natal in South Africa. She started her career as actually a very important translator of high French theory. She's an early translator of Jacques Derrida, the father of deconstruction. The book was Spurs. Barbara, in subsequent years, would scathingly refer to that as her juvenilia. So the point is, she could do when she wanted, unbelievably, I think, interesting, or she thinks that interesting, abstruse philosophical theory. She was also an important early translator of the great Palestinian novelist and short story writer Ghassan Kanafani. She translated Palestine's Children in the early 80s. So I'm just doing this to give you some sense of her institutional, geographic, and intellectual range. She published 3 books. The first one, Resistance Literature, in 1986, followed by Bard, which was a novel about a study of women in prison, and then Afterlives about the legacy of certain revolutionary writers. She also published over 100 articles, 6 edited volumes. She wrote incredibly important forwards for other people's books. And that's sort of what I want to stress, is that she was immense. Barbara did not just care about her own career. It was actually other people's careers and building the communities of intellectual interest that were important to her, that were her primary, I think, intellectual priority, while making a big contribution in terms of her own scholarship. She was a big friend of the Africa Studies Conference. She moderated panels, she presented, she would bully and cajole her students to get involved. And Barbara has many, many famous students. And if you get them all together, they will tell you slightly scary stories. Because Barbara was immensely generous, but she also did not suffer fools gladly. And my favorite moment was sitting one day with Eve Dunbar, who's now the dean at Vassar. And she said to me, I realized actually when she got scary, ask her about her cats. And this was a very good piece of advice, because that's what I would do when she was telling me I was wrong, which happened not infrequently. Along with Ben Lindfors, who is here, she founded the Ethnic and Third World Graduate Concentration in English in the late 80s, at a time in which English departments were not known for their friendliness towards a subject called African literature. And it was a pioneering program that I think started making many of the links between African literature and African diasporic literature that we kind of take for granted today. Barbara was also an instrumental figure in the founding and thriving of the Audrey and Bernard Rappaport Center for Human Rights and Justice in the law school. She worked very hard to sort of get human rights issues into the undergraduate curriculum. When she died, she was working on 2 projects. One was on the South African national liberation activist and great communist activist Ruth First, who was assassinated by an apartheid government, later bombing in 1982. And then the other one was on Obama's kill lists and drone programs. So I think that gives a sense of the range of her erudition and the range of her political commitments, and the kind of clearness of her moral barometer. And I think as we enter or re-enter a post-fact era, an alternative fact era. Can I say deep bullshit here? Okay, as we enter that era, I hope I have some of Barbara's moral clarity and political certainty in me. It was very difficult deciding on the winners of this inaugural award for the Barbara Harlow Award for Excellence in Scholarship. And I'm ashamed to say I don't know if our honorable mention runner-up and winner are here. I hope you're here because I've actually got checks for you. So actually, if they're not here and you know who they are, text them. Tell them to come down. The honorable mention runner-up goes to W.L. Vieira's essay, Pre-Colonial Imaginaries and Colonial Legacies in Mobutu's Authentic Zaire. Is W.L. here? Okay, we can clap for him. Oh yeah, okay. I'm just going to say a few nice things about your essay and then come grab your check. Pre-Colonial Imaginaries and Colonial Legacies in Mobutu's Authentic Zaire is a compelling, powerfully narrated, trans-historical examination of the rationalization of oppression and greed from King Leopold's colonial era and the scramble for Africa to Mobutu's post-independence nativism, cronyism, and corruption. History, reality, probing analysis, and engaged conversation with a broad range of scholars' works of the era's materials. His essay is nuanced and committed to an understanding of the politics of past and present. It is smart and stimulating scholarship. I think Barbara Harder would have greatly admired and appreciated Vieira's lively and rigorous work. So congratulations, sir. Okay. I know you are I don't. The run. Yeah. Okay. Come forward. Come forward. Yes, you can. It's great. I don't mind sharing the limelight. Okay, and then the winner of the inaugural Barbara Harlow Award for Excellence in Scholarship is Elizabeth Jacob. Is she here? Oh, wow, she's here. If you want to win an award, sit at that table. Come forward, please, come. Don't be shy. Elizabeth Jacobs' militant mother's gender and political participation in colonial Côte d'Ivoire is an essay that deserves mention and praise. Jacobs' examination of Ajanu sitting on a man, maternal resistance, and women's embodied strategic, performative, and radically subversive challenges to colonial and patriarchal oppression is historically illuminating and metacritical. Jacobs' archival research and critical analysis of oral and testimonial records and their previous uses and representations fully succeeds in its effort to reveal and ask new historical questions. So please join me in congratulating
I'd like to invite Professor Shegra of Rhodes College to continue the awards presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Are we okay? Well, on behalf of Professor Falola, the organizers of the Africa Conference, it's my distinct pleasure to be presenting the awards for this year. Now, we merge the Austin Awards with those of TOFA, adopting similar names and giving two in each category per year, one in the USA and one in Africa. Those for Africa this year will be awarded at Adeyemi College of Education, Ondo, Nigeria. The awards. The first award is the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Award. This award is intended to recognize and reward a graduate student whose research and scholarship already stands out for innovation, originality of thought, potential to contribute significantly to his or her discipline, and leadership. The award is named after Africa's first elected female head of state, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, named the best president her country has ever had, democracy activist, nation builder, tenacious state reformer, former United Nations technocrat, Nobel laureate, recipient of the American Presidential Medal for Freedom, as well as more than 14 honorary doctorates from US and African universities. This award in her name anticipates a student whose research and scholarship blazes a trail and inspires positive leadership values to resemble and exceed that by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. The recipient this year is Ben Weiss. Please, if you are around, thank you. Now, Ben Weiss is a doctoral candidate at the University of Texas at Austin. He received his BA with honors in history, government, and African development studies from the University of Texas at Austin in 2013. Ben's research interests include HIV/AIDS, economic development, foreign aid and investment, health monitoring systems, and pharmaceutical supply networks. His dissertation aims to understand the colonial history of STD surveillance and treatment in Southern Africa in order to contextualize more contemporary responses to early HIV/AIDS histories in the same area through the work of a diverse range of post-colonial theorists. He hopes that this effort will provide him the educational background to pursue a career formulating effective policy strategies for HIV/AIDS relief in Africa. Ben actively contributes to academic conferences and coordinated several successful conferences on Africa-related topics during his time at the University of Texas at Austin. Ben participated in the UT Africa Conference several years, in addition to the Undoing Health Conference, Beyond Boundaries African History Conference, Tofak Daban, University of Alabama Power and Struggle Conference, UTE3W Conference, and the University of Colorado Boulder Interdisciplinary History Conference. Ben is active in publishing scholarship on a wide range of themes. He was a special section editor of the issue of Hybrid Archives and Cross Disciplines, E3W Review of Books in 2016. He has also written several book chapters. Ben's articles include A Journey to Lusaka, How Travel Converted Pessimism to Hope, in Zambian Analysis, and Educational Pluralism, The Survival of Intellectual Development in Newburgh Schools, in the Sentinel. Ben also authored several podcasts for Texas Humanities Minutes, wrote an article for UT's Not Even Past, and was interviewed for 15-minute history. Multiple institutions and organizations recognized and funded Ben's exceptional work, including the Rappaport Center for Human Rights and Justice, Delta Lambda Phi, the University of Colorado Boulder, the University of Texas, and Texas Excellence. Furthermore, Ben received the 2014 University of Alabama Power and Struggle Conference Best Paper Award and the 2015 University of Texas Thesis Prize for Excellence in the Study of African, Asian, or Middle Eastern History. Congratulations to them. The second award is the Wangari Maathai Award for Innovative Scholarship and Leadership, recognizes the stellar and emerging work of a junior scholar whose contributions to enhancing the future of Africa is expected to have an enduring transformational impact. The recipient of this award is expected to ultimately embody and honor in quality and stature the work of Wangari Maathai, who was a scientist, scholar, feminist, environmentalist, and conservationist, political and human rights activist, politician, distinguished academic chair, goodwill ambassador, recipient of 15 honorary doctorates, Nobel Peace Laureate, academic and public intellectual, philanthropist, messenger of peace, founder of the Green Belt movement, and Africa's most recognized and decorated activist. The winner, Egodi Uchendu. Please join me in recognizing Dr. Egodi Uchendu. She is Professor of History in the Department of History and International Studies at the University of Nigeria at Nsukka. In 2002, she received her doctorate in social history with a specialization in women's history and gender studies, as well as an MA in political history in 1993. Her research revolves around a broad range of issues related to gender, more precisely women's history, studies of African masculinities, people and conflict, African historiography, and religious conversions with specific attention to conversions to Islam. She teaches both undergraduate and graduate courses and has worked on different research programs involving gender issues, conflict situations, and religious conversions. She has published papers in several international journals, commissioned books, and in technical reports. She authored and edited an impressive 7 books across the span of her career and has been awarded a number of research grants from major funding bodies. Highlights include recognition and support from the United States Fulbright Foreign Scholarship Board, Leventis Research Cooperation Program, and the A.G. Leventis Foundation, respectively. Codesria, Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, and Nigerian National Universities Commission. In the realm of academic service, Uchendu has served on a number of boards, granting selection committees, and as transnational assessor for a variety of academic awards and non-academic matters, including serving as a former vice president of the Fulbright Alumni Association of Nigeria for 4 years, as a member of the Presidential Committee for the Review of Nigerian National Defense Policy, as a Vice President of the Historical Society of Nigeria, as the current editor of the Journal of Historical Society of Nigeria, and as an African collaborative member of the Center of African Studies at the University of Cambridge. Currently, she directs the African Humanities Research and Development Circle, an institution-based research group at the University of Nigeria. Please join me in honoring Dr. Egodi. This award is given to an African academic, both at home and in the diaspora, who has distinguished himself or herself in the academic career. It is given to encourage scholars to be more committed to the propagation of knowledge that advance the cause of Africa in the Committee of Nations. The recipient this year of the Ali Mazrui Award for Scholarship and Research Excellence is Professor Michael Sharp. Our friend and colleague, Dr. Michael Sharp. Sharp was educated at universities in Britain and the United States. His PhD is from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Currently, he is a professor of English and Caribbean Studies at the University of Puerto Rico, where he has taught for over 2 decades. Sharp's extensive publication record features a diverse array of research interests with a significant attention to literatures and poetry of Africa and the Caribbean, and the implications these expressions have in social realms and in formations of identity. Some highlights include poems of Drummond Allison and essays on, among others, Drummond Allison's Yellow Night, Hart Crane's The Bridge, Hamish Henderson's Elegies for the Dead at Cyrenaica, Alfred Tenson's In Memoriam, James Thompson's The Seasons, Evelyn Waught's Bridehead Revisited, and poetry from Ambit to the Times Literary Supplement. His most recent research and publications now focus on the poetry of both Anglophone Africa and the Caribbean diaspora. Additionally, his own personal poetry has been published on both sides of the Atlantic. Sharp has taught in Scotland, in Greece, in Portugal, and in Nigeria, as well as at Binghamton, Harvard, and Wisconsin. He has occupied a role as a teaching fellow at the International School of Theory in the Humanities at the University of Santiago de Compostela in Spain. Formerly trained as a Romanticist and in the literature ideas of the 19th century, he teaches in both the MA and Caribbean doctoral programs. Please join me in congratulating Professor Sharp. The fourth award is the Kwame Nkrumah Award for Service to Pan-Africanism. This is awarded to an African who has contributed in one way or the other to the realization of the vision of African unity and development. The awardee must be committed to the task of fostering African unity, both in words and in action. The awardee for this year is none other than Professor Samuel Zalanga. Please join me in recognizing Dr. Samuel Zalanga. He received his doctorate in sociology from the University of Minnesota, where his fieldwork focused on the comparative role of ruling elite coalitions in development policy formulation and implementation in Malaysia and Nigeria. He specifically studied the process and politics of neoliberal economic reforms and implementation. He completed his bachelor's and master's degrees in sociology at Bayero University, Kano, and University of Jos, respectively, in northern Nigeria. Zalanga's broad area of specialization is development studies and social change. In doing this research, he lived in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia for a period of time, before moving to the United States in 1993 to pursue graduate studies. He lived and taught in Bauchi State in northeastern Nigeria. Currently, he is a professor of sociology at Bethel University. As he explains himself, his calling in teaching is informed by the desire to help students effectively combine their vocation with an informed ability to make meaning out of their existential experience in the contemporary postmodern age. Zalanga has also received 2 Carnegie African Diaspora Visiting Fellowships since 2015, which have facilitated teaching arrangements in Nigeria. Additionally, he serves as an associate editor for the Journal of Third World Studies. His scholarly record is decorated with countless publications and international conference presentations, including the Association of Third World Studies Outstanding Service Award for outstanding contributions to the improvement of the scope and quality of the Journal of Third World Studies, and the Association of Third World Studies Presidential Award, among many prestigious others. In August of this year, he expects to release 3 books on economic development in Malaysia and Nigeria. Please join me in honoring Professor Banquet. The next award is the Thabo Mbeki Award for Leadership, which is awarded to an African who has distinguished himself or herself in the public or private sector. The recipient of the award must be a high caliber individual with an unblemished record of public service or the private sector. The awardee must be someone who is committed to the project of African Renaissance and African unity. This year's recipient of the Thabo Mbeki Award for Leadership is Professor Oladele Balogun. Professor Balogun holds his doctorate degree in philosophy from the University of Ibadan, where he also completed an MA in philosophy. Showing great versatility, he also holds a Master of Science in Mass Communication from Enugu State University of Science and Technology. Currently, he functions as an Associate Professor in Philosophy at Olabisi Onabanjo University in Ogun State, Nigeria, where he also serves as Chair of the Department of Philosophy. His research interests span a diverse array of topics in African philosophy, African jurisprudence, philosophy of law, and the philosophy of education. A few highlights include his work on conceptual decolonization in contemporary African thought and his efforts to produce texts which assist other researchers and students in introducing themselves to African philosophies and issues in the philosophy of education. His close to 100 publications in books and journal articles have appeared in prestigious forums such as African Identities, Nordic Journal of African Studies, the Journal of Pan-African Studies, Philosophia, International Journal of Philosophy, Thought and Practice, a journal of the Philosophical Association of Kenya, and many more. In particular, he published 2 impressive books, Causality in Western Science and Traditional African Thought, a study in comparative philosophy, and Issues in Philosophy of Law. Balogun has also attended and presented his research at close to 50 conferences across the span of his career. Highlights include his participation in international philosophy conferences in Ghana, Leicester, South Africa, Korea, Singapore, and the United States. His career is distinguished by a large number of roles and awards in service to the university system, including a 2012 recognition of outstanding performance by the National Association of Philosophy Students. When not engaged in deep thought and writing, he enjoys spending time with his 4 marvelous children and his lovely wife, Dr. Temitope Balogun. Please join me in honoring. The final award is the Nelson Mandela Distinguished Africanist Award, which is awarded to an African who has distinguished herself or himself in public leadership positions. The awardee must be known for promotion of freedom for Africans both at the national and international levels. She or he must have shown resilience, courage, and determination in the pursuit of African liberation. The winner of the Nelson Mandela Distinguished Africanist Award for 2017 is none other than Professor Falu Ngom. Professor Ngom holds a PhD in French linguistics and an MA in French with an emphasis on linguistics. Recently being promoted to a full professorship this past February, Ngom has taught in the anthropology department at Boston University for almost a decade and has served as the director of its African languages program. Ngom's current research interests include examining the interactions between African languages and non-African languages, the Africanization of Islam, and Ajami literatures, or records of West African languages written in Arabic script. Through his linguistic work, he has become proficient in over 10 languages, achieving fluency in many of them. Ultimately, he hopes to help train the first generation of American scholars to have direct access into the wealth of knowledge still left largely unexamined in West African Ajami literatures, as well as the historical, cultural, and religious heritage that has found expression through this forum. Ngom also employs his language analysis skills in the realm of asylum cases, which is beginning to emerge as a subfield of the new field of forensic linguistics. His efforts in this regard address the intricacies of using knowledge of varied West African languages and dialects in evaluating the claims of migrants applying for asylum in order to determine if applicants are being truthful in their claims of national origin. Ngom's work has appeared in the International Journal of the Sociology of Language, the Journal of Multilingual and Multicultural Development, Language Variation and Change, and the African Studies Review, among others. He has published 6 books with another 3 in progress. On the conference front, Ngom has occupied close to 100 varied roles at different international conferences by way of presenting as a panelist, chairing panels, and giving keynote speeches. Unsurprisingly, he holds a record of procuring countless awards, grants, and other honors. It gives me special pleasure to be the one presenting this award to him, especially given the fact that on the 26th of this month, he is our special guest at Rhodes College, giving a talk on forensic linguistics. Join me, please. Thank you very much. It's now my pleasure to invite Professor Egodi Uchendu to give a vote of thanks on behalf of all the award recipients.
Good evening, everybody. Professor Toyin Falola, I want to take you that this is our high table. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all of us gathered here tonight, and on behalf of all the recipients of the various awards tonight, it is my pleasure to appreciate what has happened at this conference, and especially this evening. I am actually amazed, astounded, surprised, and I'm sure that's basically how the rest of us feel. I lack the appropriate words to express my appreciation to Professor Falola and his lovely wife. It's interesting, I met her last 15 years ago at the 2002 conference. And even though I was to take part in the 2003 conference, I was not physically present. So I was disconnected from this gathering physically for virtually 14 years. I want to appreciate Professor Falola for what he represents for Africa, for scholarship, global scholarship. He's indeed a beacon. He's a father in many respects. I was telling one of my students, former students, currently his students, this afternoon, that despite all the accomplishments of Professor Falola, he has not lost his humanity, he has not lost his humility, he remains an enigma by any ramifications he can use to assess it. Monumental, thank you. It was amazing. I wouldn't know how many of us observed this. While we were eating lunch, he was busy with a trash bag, picking our debris. I want to challenge my fellow Africans that the higher you climb, there are certain responsibilities he bestows on you. And we're learning this from him. The responsibility to serve others, to be a role model. What he has been is a role model to all of us. If it's not to you, he is to me. That is why we are here. I want to encourage us to learn the final things we have seen him do. As he has planted in our lives in various ways, please let us learn to plant in the life of others. Let us sow. That is how Africa will become great. I thank all of you, and I especially thank Professor Falola and his wife.
It gives me great pleasure to come and thank all of you. I've been hosting conferences. I never present, I never say anything. I only just thank you for coming. That is my own style of doing these conferences, and it's deliberate. And we usually have to thank those who do the hard work. Where is Ken? Is he here? Ken, where's Ken? Ken, please come. This conference will not have been successful without Dr. Kenkalu, who was a PhD in economics. He works for the bank for many years, then he became an administrator, rising to the level of deputy director. He attended our conference, and at the bank conference he said he wants to write books, he wants to become a scholar. Can he come here? And I told him what I tell every other person. For those of you who say you want to come here, you can always come here. What I say, if you have money, I can do the rest of it. So I've been able to process J visa for many people. As many as who want to come. And we're expecting the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Makerere, somebody else from Uganda. The problem is not that we cannot receive you. The problem is how to finance receiving you. We are grateful that he's here with us with a 5-year appointment, and he organized this conference. And by popular demand, he's organizing next year's conference. With the Ghanaian archaeologist, is he here? Kofi? Where's Kofi? Is he here? Kofi, where are you? He's not here. He's helping you to do something. And Mata, who used to manage our account, has also become the director. Can Carlo call himself PhD without papers? This is the second year here. We finished a book which Magdalena is publishing. He signed 3 contracts for the book. And we'll be working together with people who are appointed as editors of this conference. He just said he wants to become a scholar. I'm working 12 hours every day. He's been very dynamic and productive. His wife is here with us. Thank you very much, ma'am. So many other email messages. I cannot thank other people. We listed their names. You can go now. So this year we experimented. We tried a new approach. Instead of using graduate students, we said we want to use undergraduate students. So we bypass the graduate students. So you are not going to see including my graduate students that I pass on to. We need to involve them. And this is the first year we involve undergraduate students. We'll be able to teaching them leadership, how to build communities, how to interact with people, and subsequently how to recruit them into the academy, so that they have to know very quickly what many of these things entail. And this is a new model we will keep adopting. We thank many of them. Luis Cataldo, you all met him, he's here with us. We cannot thank them enough. Next year, we are introducing a new feature into the program. It's going to have a tourist component from next year. And in that tourist component, we still do not have the details of how we are going to be able to do it. The problem is we do not want to add an additional day because of the cost consequences. It's not that it does not occur to us, but we cannot ask people to arrive on Wednesday because of the tourism component. What we've succeeded in doing is adding the shopping component to allow people to go to Walmart. Many of you come from an oil-driven economy like Nigeria, and your pastors, you do not know how an economy functions. We've been able to calculate that this conference alone pumps into this economy 1.5 million minimum for 3 days. That's how much we pump into the Western economy. It's not difficult to calculate. And Ken is going to develop as an economist and banker. He said my figure is very low, that I'm not inputting it. But 1 year on air ticket alone that we collected, people paid to Delta and Lufthansa over $1 million just to come to this conference. By the time the hotel sends the bill for this banquet, it's going to be like 10,000. And many of you pay hotels. That's how an economy grows. And that is one of the things we do not do very well, where we all come from, and things we need to improve upon. And the more efficient we are in doing all these things, more and more people get jobs, and the economy expands. And great economies like this, that's why they flourish, is how they are able to accumulate many of these things. And hopefully, we will continue to do this. For those of you who have studied the conference programs, we have the African version of this conference, first week of July, on the theme of education. because we do 2 conferences every year. We do one here and we do one in Africa. And next year we're going to go to Nairobi, Kenya, where Professor Paul Selesa will be hosting us. And we'll continue to do this. And we are hosting another conference at Olabisi Odubanjo University in October. We'll continue to do all these initiatives. We thank you all. So people have asked the question, why is this conference very successful? It is very simple. Do not ask for institutional funding. That is the trick. Because if you rely on universities to sponsor what you are doing, it's going to fail. You cannot be going to the same person year after year, give me money, give me money, give me money. So, from the very beginning, we decided that we are not going to ask anybody for money. And this is the principle. If those who come to a conference and do associations cannot have passion to make it going, there's no need to start it. You'll be asking government for money, asking investors for money. So we don't ask for money. We rely on small donations. This evening alone, without asking anybody, we've collected $750. The president of the Yoruba Progressive Union just gave us a check. Unless Ogunwewa, who is an entrepreneur here, gave us $250. We don't spend this money. All these donations, we don't spend them. We put them into an endowment, which means that we only spend the interest. But in spending the interest, the idea is not just to spend it on the conference. We also spend it on students who have no means to buy books. Sometimes they have no money. People have, great parents have optimism in sending their kids to school. And they try. After they try for the first year, second year, the money they are expecting will not come. The businesses they think will generate the income will collapse. The friends who promised them help will disappoint. But we do not abandon these kids who are put under our charge. And some of these initiatives, when they give us money, we refuse to spend them. We just spend the interest in a new generation of Africans, some of whom may be your own children. We thank you all. We want to thank the keynote speaker. In my next life, I want to be a Baba. Thank you very much, Professor Shure, for that wonderful speech and for telling us so many things where we do not know. I want to make one more statement and then the rest will be logistics. Many of you are here from African academies, and we want to make a plea that those of you who are into supervision must begin to take this supervision more seriously. If somebody is not meant for the academy, please let them go. Please, please, please. I have asked in my career here 7 students to leave the PhD program, because I know if they finish, they're going to create an enormous damage to the profession. If somebody is not good, it is not that you are judging them for their character, but you must be very sensitive that the academy is a very serious business. They are going to make more money in businesses. They will make more money as politicians stealing money. Let them but please, because we are beginning to witness declining not declining productivity, but declining abilities. And I just want to appeal to many of you as you supervise that do not play tricks with them. The best way to train any graduate student is to be hard on them. They are not your friends. You don't want to be their friends. I have many friends. What do you care if they're your friends? They are not your drinking mates. They are not your children. You're just a professional person trying to train them. If you are not hard on them, you are destroying them. The harder you are on them, the trick is very simple. When you are hard on people, they resent you. Years later, they will be pressing you. That's just the standard trick. Those of you who want to befriend them now and destroy them, they will realize that you destroy them and they will be cursing you. Train them very well, be very hard on them. Everybody who goes through me knows that I'm very difficult. If you come to my office, first of all, you can't ask me stupid questions. I get very angry. I said, why are you asking me? Leave my office. Be very hard on the students you supervise, because the harder you have, the more serious they take the profession, and the better it is for everybody. And the quality of education will rise. I've been talking to a number of people. I'm beginning to preach this so that we can produce a better generation of scholars.